Down these long-dried sewer corridors, great lengths of metal piping thrum with arcane power, haphazardly crossing through tunnels and intersections over each other. And you climb through this new maze of pipes built through this old maze of stone until you hear the chanting, wafting down the hall. Candlelight seems to be illuminating the end of the tunnel, but something's sickly and putrid about it. You come to the elbow and spy the figures.
Hush. Someone is here.
Hello! You can call me KBC, and today I'm pumped, because we are going to be taking this map that you may recognize from a previous video, link in the thing, and turning it into something that I hope will be a print quality battle map that you can download at home and use for virtual tabletops or your actual tabletop. Now I will say this is my first time trying to do this drawing by hand. I have made a large number of print maps for the games that I run. Here's an example of some, but those were made in a, frankly, stellar tool called Dungeon Draft, which if you're a DM out there, I look into it. But suffice it to say, they were made in a program with pre-made assets, right? Whereas this, as you can see on screen, I'm doing by hand. I mean, right now I'm just transferring lines from the sketch to the here. Nothing too interesting is happening. So I guess let's talk about the physicality of this map and sort of designing this with you using it in mind. I was talking about Dungeon Draft. I still used it for this kind of. So in Dungeon Draft, I opened a new file that was 12 by 18 inches and just exported the grid that it makes when you start a new file with a blank background. And that gave me a transparent PNG that I just dragged into Krita, and that's the basis that I use for the whole map. So by extension, this map is 12 by 18. And I chose that size for a couple reasons. One, I get my maps printed at a Staples print center nearby me, and I've done a lot of testing of materials and print qualities and blah blah blah. And if you would like the best quality of map, in my opinion, the poster material, generally just the regular glossy poster material, is what I used for these maps out here. And the smallest size that comes in is 12 by 18. So that's why I set my map to those dimensions. But also, printing out a 12 by 18 poster is like $12, $15, give or take. So some of us don't actually have quality as their highest concern, but rather budget. In consideration for that, I designed the map so you can lop off the right inch and the bottom inch. It kind of chops off this little part of the hallway here, but that's fine. But that brings the map size down to 11 by 17. And in that case, you can print that at home on a regular 11 by 17 piece of paper if your printer will handle that kind of thing. Or if you are okay with going to a print center and spending $1 or $2, they have like matte cardstock options. It's like $1 or $2. Brilliant. Anyways, that is to say, this map was designed primarily for use at home, but also you can load up virtual tabletop, obviously. It's just going to be a PNG you can download. And yes, that's the other point of this video. I've just always wanted to make maps. I remember loving this really old atlas. It was the biggest book in the house. It was huge. It had this navy blue cover, and it had everything in it. This was before the internet existed. You have to realize the idea of being able to like figure out where your house is on the planet, like being able to be like, oh, this is where we are in this map, and this is where we are in this map, and get smaller and smaller until you can actually find it, and then be able to work your way back out, sort of thing. It was so exciting to me as a child. That was so cool. This is before Google Earth existed, but I'll tell you what, that blew my mind when that came out too. And of course it was the biggest book in the house, so it was the coolest book in the house. But ever since then, I've just sort of been in love with cartography. As soon as I saw my first fantasy book with a map in the front cover, you bet your bits I lost my mind. I still have it. 1 second. I in fact do not have it. It was Aragon. I however have the sequel, Eldest, still my hardcover copy. I lost my hardcover copy of the original, God knows how many years ago. But this not only is my original copy of the sequel, but it still has my bookmark in it from when I was first reading it. And I'll let you know, dear viewer, I got to page 58. I got to chapter called Fealty. That is as far as I got into the sequel. But man, the map in the front of Aragon, I stared at forever trying to figure out how to draw like that. And I still have, hold up, I still have my sketchbook. Simon's here. Hey buddy, give him a little. Okay, so, this is a map I drew just like inspired by looking at maps, right? It's by no means good, but like, those are mountains, that's a forest, obviously. That's supposed to be cities, I guess? I don't know. This may have been inspired very much by RuneScape as well. Combat Arena? Oh yes, this was very much inspired by RuneScape. But then if we turn the page, this one looks a lot more, like a map. The thing is, if you zoom in way here, way right here, this is coming full circle. This little smudge at the bottom of the map was where my first ever homebrew D&D campaign I ever ran took place. How full circle is that? Oh, here's a cool night extra. The point being, I've been drawing maps for D&D my whole life. I love doing it, and I wanted to share it. I want to get better as an artist. I want to push myself, and I want to have a reason to push myself. And that's what this channel is for. I want to push myself to make better and better maps. So I'm going to commit myself to making maps as often as I can, hopefully get at least one map a month out there for you guys, for you to download and use or borrow inspiration from, and hopefully if I keep pushing myself, they will eventually be of a quality that you may try using them yourself. I would love nothing more. That is to say, your support would go a long way. If you don't mind doing a little likey, subscribe, or cringe and do that in the middle of the video. It can't be any more cringe than how long it takes me to get this corner. That's to start a trend in this video of oversharing on the internet, but I'm kind of a game design junkie, and I love the GDC talks and the 4-hour video essays, and of course I've attempted to make my own games, and I love designing wacky and complicated decks in card games like Magic, but this also leads me to say I want to make fun and interesting maps. Like D&D combat can kind of suck sometimes, right? And especially if it's just sort of a flat area where all places are equal. And so I wanted to create interesting angles for perhaps people to take cover behind, or to use as points to hide and employ lines of sight for casting spells, maybe. Things like verticality. I love employing verticality in a map and getting players to actually think 3-dimensionally, to put themselves inside the space. Like, it forces the player to actually think about the place that their character is in and put themselves in there. And that can help a lot for not only like the combat, but the role-playing element, to get them really engaged. Also, you want to give them a lot of avenues of player choice, right? Sure, here there's a right staircase and a left staircase. Are they both equal? Well, yes, no, not necessarily, right? You can approach this left staircase, you walk in the bottom of the map, right? And you just walk up the tunnel and you have access to the staircase right away. But if you want to go down into the sewer pipe, there's this sort of like curved, slippery slope that maybe some GMs may make you do a roll about or whatever, but I wouldn't worry about it. But there's this like staircase that leads up, and you can like have a player also sneak across to the right and use the stairs perhaps. But underneath, you can hide potentially under this grate if you wanted to do a sneak attack, right? Or sneak someone in to gather information or whatever thing you're doing in your scenario. Also, with these like little carpets and tables and candles and the pipe and these boxes, having little props around a combat scenario can introduce all sorts of fun little role-playing moments. You can come up with what are in those boxes if the players need, or a player can use them to their advantage, or you as a game master could perhaps think of a way to use these things to enemy combatants' advantage. Monks can like do cool jumps off the pipe, or perhaps breaking the pipe comes into the equation. And then you gotta think, what are the ramifications of that, right? I will say, if you are using this as a smaller map, I run a game for a smaller party, so that's fine for me. And all of it is designed to be easier to descend down away from the skull to defend it, rather than to get towards it, leading it to be an interesting defensive position for your party to have to crack. Or maybe, perhaps, try to defend. And that sounds fun, actually. Have some flankers come down the pipe tunnels, go full aliens on them. Oh man, here's about where things actually start getting good, by the way, I should say. As soon as the lighting really starts coming together and they do these little highlight details on the stones, I'm gonna fiddle with the saturation of these layers in a bit, and I'm gonna redo the shadows and stuff. But as soon as the light comes into the picture is when the whole map really starts coming together, in my opinion. Like, I was questioning myself a lot as soon as I started putting color down. I talked about this in my previous video. This is the thing that I hope to work on the most. Color. I think lighting I'm mostly okay on in most places. It's mostly how to use color to my advantage to get the lighting the way that I know it should be, because I feel like I can get it the way that I know it should be. It's most of the way. It's most of the way. Honestly, with just these few layers, the stones are already starting to take shape down there. I am also trying a bunch of new brushes. This is probably a bad place to have taken them for a field test, but I searched for Krita brushes. I hit free, sorted by downloads, and grabbed a handful to try, and now we're 12 minutes into the video. So, if you have any suggestions of brushes for me to try, however, feel free to leave them in the comments. This map took 10 hours to ink and paint, according to the footage. I'm gonna be real with you, the recording and editing process for the audio took significantly longer, y'all. I'm just one person. I want to do this by hand, and why draw all these maps by hand? Because it's fun. I love doing it, and I want to get better at it. I'm sure you can get much better maps. In an internet of exponentially more AI content and people willing to exploit that for cash, this channel exists to let my process, the human element of it, be a part of all the things I make. Because I believe sharing in the intentionality of the actual process is going to be one of the only weapons artists have moving forward, right? Ooh, the rust on the pipe comes out really nice, and then I start adding this mist down on the lower layer. Just over the course of the first few videos on this channel, I've felt myself improving as an artist for what feels like the first time in a very long time, and I want to ride this momentum as far as I can take it. The only way I can go the distance is with support. So, to get out there and hopefully earn that support from you, I'm going to be starting Map of the Month. And this will be my first map of the month. The map is free to download in 6 versions. 2 sizes, the 12x18, the 11x17, and each of them has 3 versions. One with a dark grid, one with a lighter highlighted grid, and one with no grid. Grab one, grab them all. They will be linked in a public Patreon post entitled Map of the Month, August 2024. And hear me out, each map of the month will remain a public post until the next map of the month goes out. That way, there's always free downloadable maps. No follow or subscription even required from you, even if I'm behind on it. This is a big move. I'm starting this journey for the first time. I'd like you to come with me. I'm going to be streaming here in the future. I'm going to have more maps. I'm planning out perhaps a dungeon or 2, a couple battle maps, an overworld map. I want to try redoing my city map. Anyway, the map at hand, I like how it turned out in the fog, the fog feeling lit really good. And then, at the advice of a couple friends, get more grime and slime in there. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm putting some, like, splotches of, you know, your standard sewer grime and slime. I do like how the shading made these corners look very cool, where the candlelight doesn't reach. Combined with the fog, makes everything feel very, you know, damp and sewery. Up here, I was going to put little top-down flames on the candles, but honestly, I have zero idea how to even approach that. So that's something I will work on and try a different time. Oh, when it's just the lighting and the stone there, that's a pretty cool effect, I'm not gonna lie. Adding a little dirt and wear to show where the foot traffic has gone through here, make this place feel kind of lived in. A little spider web, a little home for a spider. This is something that, I don't know, maybe your players could use to their advantage or not. Little creepy crawlies in places. And this was sort of making it a little more obvious that this is where in old times where the water may have flowed from, right? So my thought process behind the map. And of course, if you use this map, you can fit it into whatever established lore you need, but in the canon of my campaign setting, this exists somewhere underneath the city of Laverbrook. Now, Laverbrook started out a long time ago as just a small castle town, but after it got incorporated into the Empire at the end of the War of the Witch Queen, the population exploded. It became the capital of a new province. And so eventually there was a need for a complete infrastructure overhaul, and combined with engineering advancements, a lot of the old sewer that served mainly just the castle and the grounds, these tunnels went largely abandoned when a new sewer was constructed. When a group of brilliant mages at the arcane universities in the city start experimenting with ways to send arcane energies from one enchanted object to another, and then eventually from one room to another, and then eventually across vast distances, they start developing the idea for this arcane power transmission network. And you also just happen to have large sections of disused tunnels underneath the administrative and military portions of the city. So a lot of these old tunnels were opened up for access and maintenance, and the arcane transmission network was built inside of it, which is why you have all these old Roman-esque stone sewers mixed with these like newer proto-industrial pipes. But with the opening up of all these old tunnels and leaving maintenance access to them, but perhaps out of hubris not maintaining them, and leaving lots of accessible little dark hidden away corridors that nobody checks on, well, that's how you get ants. Or cults in this case. Well, some features to note. Approaching from the bottom side, you've got these columns, which are on the corners of these 4 squares, so that they can be stood around and used as light cover. This staircase, perhaps as well, could be used as cover or a hiding spot. And then we have this wall here up against the raised section that you could also potentially hide or take cover against or climb up. Overall, between the layers and the lighting, I think this came together exceptionally well for my first attempt doing it by hand. And I would love for you to get your hands on it, try it, download it, use it, share it. Please tell me how it went. I would love feedback so I can improve them going forward. Again, it's free, linked in a public Patreon post. That being said, for the price of clicking follow, no subscription involved, you also get access to my current campaign map, which is a few years old at this point, and the updated version of which is a future plan video. And beyond that, if you do feel like contributing, I want all the actual content meat that I create to be available for you at the lowest subscription tier. In addition to early ad-free versions of the videos that I make, any of the end results of the videos I make here, campaign maps, battle maps, flavor art, you name it, as well as every map of the month will be available in an archive, plus a bunch of miscellaneous maps I've made for my campaigns that I feel are of quality enough, kind of like those ones earlier in the video, and I'm going to put any more I make once I've finished inflicting them on my players. All that, updates, being involved in polls, and beyond that, if you feel like giving more than the minimum, you'll get access to more behind-the-scenes content. Thoughts, comments, feedback, demands to see the cats more, I'd appreciate all of that. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.